Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. God, it feels good to say that again. Sorry for my absence this week. I have been out sick, but we are back. Energy back in here, clarity back up here. I've been taking a break from the markets, and I come back and I check and I see, wow, Palantir is still up in the 60s, climbing another 5% this week. Crazy to see. We continue to see this run up here, not any pullback. And the question is, how high is this going to go by the end of the year? And I'm seeing institutions coming out here with price targets talking about $75. Now, you guys may already know some of this, but I want to quickly review it, give a recap and what we could possibly expect. And of course, how long is this run going to last? Everybody's talking about the valuation is completely disconnected. We know that. I think everybody knows that. But Palantir still continues to climb. This is a lot of institutional investments that could be likely coming into Palantir. Now, we'll also be covering the market, what happened with inflationary data today, how the Fed is kind of probably reacting to that. And in addition, we see a little bit of a pullback in terms of the broader market. Big stocks like NVIDIA are actually continuing to pull back a little bit. Palantir still in the green. So happy Thanksgiving, number one. Great to see everybody again. It's great to be back here in front of the camcorder. Enjoy that turkey. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, pop it up on the screen here. Palantir trading at $66. It's pretty crazy to see, and say. A few months ago, if you told me Palantir is at 66, I would probably not be 100% believing that, but here we all are. And the question is, how far is this going to run? Now, Palantir, that we've been covering since basically the mid-teens, sitting at $66 now, is even finding some consolidation, some small support zones in the mid-60s. You can see these two little kind of support zones, some micro support here, nothing too critical, but good for establishing these, especially at some all-time high levels. Trading volume comes in lower here at about 50 million today, and that's to be expected considering it is a holiday week. Looking and talking about Palantir, what we're seeing in terms of price targets is $75 a share. Some of these institutions keep bringing these up higher and higher, and Palantir is following along that trajectory. We see it following along ever since we've had the strong performance in quarter three. We've seen Palantir jumped another 20%. Alex Karp saying that's basically going to be continuing to show demand that is unprecedented. And on top of that, with the S&P 500 inclusion, move over to the NASDAQ, big things have happened. Now, of course, the big question is Palantir stock overvalued. Of course, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. But despite that, Bank of America here reiterating a buy rating for Palantir stock and raised its price target for a new street high of 75 from 55. Now, personally, Bank of America, that's a pretty big institution. I think it's to take pretty seriously, especially for a SaaS stock that's already trading at very high valuations. The fact that they just come out here with a new price target and increase it by over $20 is saying something and is a pretty confident bet on their side. Explaining here that Palantir's growth in the U.S. And a widening competitive moat make it a top investment choice as it now serves a wide range of clients across sectors. And we've seen this, of course, with the governmental side of things, with the commercial side of things. If you've been following Palantir, if you're a true Palantirian, you see all the news on a daily basis. So we've seen all this, but from the headlines in terms of a rising demand, Palantir is continuing to fulfill that growth story. And Bank of America here expects Palantir's commercial business to grow on their own by 34% annually over the next 3 years, up from a forecast of 32%. Now, this bullish opinion, they say, is a rare one on a Palantir. However, we're still seeing a lot of price, and market capitalization that is continuing to increase. Considering that Palantir is sitting on a market cap at about 150 billion now, it is interesting to say. We also have, and this is an interesting take, Kramer comes out here and says this, so let's be a little hesitant there. Anybody that believes in the reverse Kramer theory, but talking about how Elon Musk is responsible for Palantir stock rally, I don't know if I would 100% support that statement personally. Like I said, I just collect all the data here and tell you what's been happening in the market in terms of the headlines, but I don't know if I would say that. Palantir has been doing an incredible run, especially without Elon Musk have any specific involvement. What Kramer does come out here and use as his example is talking about the Department of Governmental Efficiency. We do know with the new administration, that they're going to be working on, the Doge committee right here is going to be working on cutting a lot of governmental spending. And what Cramer specifically says is that Palantir is up a lot because he believes that Musk is going to turn to them and say that the Defense Department is yours, saying it's all of Palantir's, get rid of all those people, basically saying, hey, how can they reduce some of these big defense contracts, different types of entities that are spending lots of money, working to reduce a lot of that over expenditure in the government. Cramer thinks that Palantir is going to be a big key player in that. Now, I do see some type of cooperation there. I do see with Palantir specifically with how they're using AI to be incorporated into a lot, of course, of their programs and being heavily involved to the Defense Department. I do see that possible collaboration happening in the future, and which would be very bullish for Palantir, especially for efficiency committee that's going to be cutting a lot of defense spending. That would be bad for Palantir. So if they keep Palantir and become buddies and say, hey, you guys can actually utilize, all these different types of resources, that would be bullish, kind of being one of the key players that is chosen out of a bunch that could be chosen for big budget cuts. Now, Palantir, talking about here, software stocks continuing this rally into 2025. A lot of people are still predicting that we're going to see some of the big SaaS players like CrowdStrike, Cloudflare, Datadog, Snowflake, all of them continuing to party, like they say right here, like it's 1999, considering with the momentum that they've had, a lot of analysts are still predicting them to extend into 2025. However, where the hesitation does lie is where Palantir's valuation stands at right now. And talking about how Palantir stock has eviscerated the market, we have seen that. However, it is important to understand where Palantir is sitting and compared to the S&P 500. Now, I know that's not a direct comparison. That's a very, different. But compared to just how the broader market's been doing this year, year to date, the stock is almost up 300%. Market cap of 147 billion. Price to earnings at 324, and price to sales of 58. Talking about here, massive correction. When is this going to happen? Long investor talking about here, a pullback to $45 is a strong possibility. And they talk about how that a fair value price is at $30. Now, will Palantir be at that fair value? I don't. It'd have to take a big profit-taking cascade, big things happening in the market, in my own opinion, just due to the fact that Palantir has been trading at high valuation. So why would it all of a sudden just drop down to fair value out of nowhere? It's pretty much been trading at premiums for a long time, and it's a big headliner in today's space. But a pullback to 45, I think that is a decent possibility. Is that an entry point for people sitting on the sidelines? Possibly. It all depends on what your risk assessment is. But that's where a lot of the market is starting to sit at right now, talking about how far is this momentum going to run? And Palantir's valuation is too high to defend. I can see that a little bit. And in terms of the risk for downside potential, it is very high right now. So take all that with a grain of salt in terms of entry positions. Now, talking about what's happening before Thanksgiving, Turkey Day, what we're seeing here is NVIDIA is coming down a little bit, NASDAQ, S&P 500, the big broader market kind of indicators coming down about 1% on average today. We're seeing traders that are appearing to take some profit. We're seeing some underperformance there. These moves are really following some of the PCE data, which is a big gauge for the Federal Reserve in terms of what they're going to be doing for interest rate cuts in the following decision. And they use the PCE data as an inflation kind of gauge. It rose 0.2% in October and 2.3%. This actually came in line with expectations from other economists right here. So the core inflation right here, the core measure, also matched consensus forecast. They're saying it shouldn't really change the views for the disinflation. However, talking about here, the Fed could be looking to get a little more hawkish depending on the potential for inflationary policy change like new tariffs coming into next year. So the Fed will probably starting to take all that into consideration. And with that, we could see any changes in what those potential for interest rate cuts will be. Because remember, the Fed is coming out to say here they're going to do their best and will do whatever they can to try to stay at the target inflationary rate. that could make some big changes to interest rates. So we'll see what happens with that. If we see any changes with what the market's not expecting, that's where we could see more volatility coming in. And that's on top here. NVIDIA talking about here crashing below 130, blah, blah, blah. NVIDIA is not crashing. What we're seeing a little bit is of a pullback right here. They're talking about institutional investors are some of the big reasons that we're seeing for NVIDIA in these further pullbacks. But look how NVIDIA has done this whole year. No, it's not crashing. So, beware of big headlines like that. But NVIDIA is sitting at 135, and it's at an interesting price point. We've seen a lot of price targets that have been up, 180, 190. And the question is, where does NVIDIA right here? A decent support level here at the 130. If the support fails, we can see NVIDIA coming back here into the mid 110s. That could be an attractive area. We could see possibly a buyback. NVIDIA is still doing very well this year. Nonetheless, the big things are not really changing with NVIDIA particularly. It just changes in the stock that I'm seeing in the news. Other than that, that's all what I have for you guys. Peace out. Take care. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll catch you guys later. It's great to be back.